Everybody talks about moving to Lakewood Ranch, but almost nobody talks about the people moving out and why they're leaving. So let's get honest. Let's talk about it. My name is Adam Miller. I live here. I work here. I sell homes here. But this channel, it's called Not Another Real Estate Show for a reason. Why? Because I tell you what the brochures, the builders, and yes, even some real estate agents won't. So today we're talking about something that nobody else seems to be covering. Why some people are packing up and leaving Lakewood Ranch even after they moved here thinking that this was going to be their dream. First up, we have to talk about the cost of living. People move here thinking that Florida is cheap. It used to be. There's no state income tax rates. Lakewood Ranch, it is definitely not cheap, even for Florida. Housing costs here are just above the national average, and they are definitely in a different league. And even though there's a ridiculous amount of price drops happening here in Lakewood Ranch, the so-called starter single-family homes in a decent village, you're looking at $500, $650 minimum. And if you want something newer, maybe closer to waterside, it is going to be $800,000 and up. Now, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, that is what's going to cost. That is before your upgrades and before your lot costs. But here's where people get blindsided, and it is way beyond just the mortgage. You can't talk about Florida without talking about homeowners insurance. We are talking to some folks, and they're getting renewal notices, like $9,000, $12,000 for annual premiums. That is for basic coverage. It's not like you can just shop around because half the carriers actually pulled out of Florida. And then you have to talk about your electric bill because summer here, it isn't just hot, it is oppressive. And if you like your AC below 78 degrees, you got to prepare for, I don't know, $300, $500 a month every single summer. And we haven't even added in CDD fees or your HOA dues. And depending on the village, it could be $200, $400, sometimes even $700 a month just for the privilege of having manicured lawns and an amenity center that you may or may not even use. And for a lot of folks, that dream budget that they plan, it is gone within the first year. They move here thinking that Florida is cheap. Then the reality hits. Interest rates stay high, insurance premium jump, utilities keep climbing, and then suddenly they're sitting at the kitchen table wondering if they can actually afford to live in their forever home. And you know what's interesting? In the past year, about 2,400 homes sold in Lakewood Ranch, and that's in 34202, 34211. Those are the two main zip codes within Lakewood Ranch. Of course, not everyone leaving those homes packed up and moved out of Lakewood Ranch. Now, of course, some of those people upsides, some of those people downsides, some of them just moved to a different village. But still, that's a lot of people who are moving. And if you ask around, you'll hear everything from, I think we're going to stay in Lakewood Ranch forever, to people saying, I think we're leaving Florida entirely. It's just not what we hoped for. Because for some people, the price of paradise here is just too damn high. All right, next up is what I'm calling growth fatigue. Because Lakewood Ranch hasn't just grown, it has exploded in the last decade. More neighborhoods are popping up every year, more restaurants, which sounds great until you realize that they're slammed every Friday night. Way more traffic, way more traffic. And for people who've lived here for a long time, what used to feel like a hidden gem now kind of feels like suburbia on steroids. Try driving east on State Road 70 at 5 o'clock at night, or try exiting Waterside Place at noon on Sunday. It seems like every reservation is booked solid. There are golf carts blocking the sidewalks, and you're circling the parking lot for 15 minutes wondering why you even left your house. And people tell me this all the time. Adam, we moved here 5 years ago for the quiet. Back then, Lakewood Ranch felt like a small town. Now it feels like I-75 everywhere I go. And here's the kicker. It's only going to get bigger. New villages under construction, new apartment complexes coming up, more shopping centers with the same chain restaurants. And for some people, they're looking around thinking, man, we love this place when it felt local, but we're leaving before it turns into another sprawling suburb. Which, if I'm being honest, kind of sort of is already, right? And then there's something that few people admit publicly. Feeling disconnected. See, Lakewood Ranch looks like one big happy master plan community on the map, but in reality, it is dozens of separate villages with their own gates, their own HOAs, their own clubhouses, and their own events. Some people move here and they're expecting instant community, block parties, neighborhoods waving them over for drinks, kids running between yards like it's 1985 in the Midwest. And instead what they find is routine. Families stick with families they already know, retirees stick with retirees at pickleball or trivia night. Each village plans its own little tiny events, but there isn't this big, cohesive Lakewood Ranch family vibe that people imagine from all the marketing. And if you're somebody who's naturally outgoing, you're gonna find your crew. But if you're somebody who's shy, maybe introverted, or just used to spontaneous neighborhood hangs, you might feel isolated in this crowd. And then there are those little daily annoyances, the little things that nobody talks about when they're trying to sell you the Florida dream. But over time, they wear you down. And I'm talking about things like cell phone dead zones. Like there are stretches along State Road 64, State Road 70, where calls just drop. It's like clockwork. Does not matter who your carrier is. So if you rely on your phone for business calls on the road, like me, prepare to have that awkward follow-up text saying, sorry man, lost you there. And let's talk about new construction real quick. So people move here thinking that brand new means problem-free. Then within months, they're patching drywall cracks, they're seeing paint overspray on windows, they're fighting with cabinet drawers that don't close right, they're calling the builder back for uneven tile grout lines, and the builder rep who called you every single day before closing, crickets once you're past your warranty. All right, let's talk about insurance headaches, because this is a big one. Here's the truth. Florida's insurance market, it is in crisis. Companies are going bankrupt or pulling out entirely. A lot of renewals, they're getting denied left and right, not because of your roof, but because carriers can't afford the risk anymore. And if you do get a policy, you're paying 2, maybe 3 times as much what you paid up north for less coverage with a hurricane deductible so high that it almost guarantees that you're gonna pay out of pocket anyway. And some policies that were maybe $3,000 2 years ago, they're now $9,000 or even $12,000. And that is not an exaggeration. Okay, so let me say this. Individually, those things are not really gonna break you, right? A drop call, it's kind of an annoyance. A drywall crack, it's cosmetic. But together, they become a daily reminder that your dream home comes with a cost that you did not see on Zillow. And for a lot of folks who are already feeling squeezed by rising interest rates, higher utilities, HOA politics, these daily frustrations, they stack up until you start thinking to yourself, well, maybe we're gonna find someplace a little more simpler, a little cheaper, maybe just a little less stressful. Because at some point, I promise you, sunshine and palm trees isn't gonna be enough, especially if you're feeling like you're under constant financial whiplash. And then finally, there's those social issues that nobody ever really markets. If you spend any time in the local Facebook groups, you'll see the posts I'm talking about. People worried about petty theft, people worried about porch pirates that are swiping Amazon packages, cars being broken into overnight at apartment complexes or shopping centers like UTC Mall. Now, is this Chicago level crime? Absolutely not. But if you moved here and you're expecting a utopian bubble where nothing bad ever happens, even a stolen bike or a car break-in shakes your sense of safety. Now, this next one is not specifically in Lakewood Ranch, but certainly in and around Lakewood Ranch, especially along I-75. You see homeless people hanging out near intersections, near gas stations, near traffic lights. It's not rampant, but it definitely exists. And for newcomers expecting this perfect, manicured perfection everywhere, it could be a shock. And that's just the local snapshot. If you zoom out to Florida's broader realities, it gets a little heavier. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. Florida definitely is not shy about its political identity. Some people thrive on it, others kind of feel alienated, especially if their views don't match the majority here. It seeps into school board meetings, local business policies, and even neighborhood Facebook debates. And of course, we have to talk about the climate, because hurricanes are not just a headline here, they're an annual reality. Every June to November, residents watch the Gulf nervously, wondering if this is the year that the roof holds up, or if their evacuation gets root. It's for real. I mean, last year alone, we got hit with 3 hurricanes in Florida. And then let's talk about healthcare, because we know that a lot of retirees, actually even families who move here, are concerned about healthcare. You ask anybody who's trying to get a specialist appointment recently, wait lists could be months. And even a lot of primary care specialists aren't even accepting new patients. Now, Lakewood Ranch does have some phenomenal schools. So generally speaking, top rated districts look great on paper, but if you dig deeper, you're gonna hear about teacher shortages, large class sizes, and a lot of families opting for private school. Now, I probably could and should do an entire video about insurance, because if your roof is older than 10, 15 years, good luck, because you're either gonna have to replace it out of pocket before selling it, or the buyers can't get insurance. And with the new recent state law changes, homeowners find themselves footing the bills that they thought their policy would cover. Now again, individually, none of these are gonna guarantee that you're gonna leave, but together they paint a reality that is far more complex than palm trees and beach days. And for some people, that's just enough to say, well, this is not the Florida dream that I imagined. Maybe it's time to look elsewhere. Because when the sunshine wears off, what you're left with is the real Florida. Beautiful, flawed, expensive, politically loud, and undeniably challenging in ways that no developer for sure ever will admit. But here's the truth though. For every person moving out, there are 3 more people moving in. Why? Because despite all these downsides, Lakewood Ranch is still clean and safe and organized and predictable compared to the chaotic, overpriced cities that many people are leaving behind. I mean, the reality is that people come here for peace of mind, for the gated villages, top-rated schools, for beaches within 30, 45 minutes, even on those crowded weekends. They come for dog parks, they come for golf carts, they come for HOA enforcement, they come for kids biking to schools without dodging traffic or worrying about crime. That is not hype, that is just reality. But here's what no one tells you. Just because thousands of people love it here, doesn't mean that you will. Because everything that makes Lakewood Ranch perfect to some, the strict HOA rules, the cookie cutter villages, the quiet nights, the conservative community vibe, could make you feel trapped or bored or just out of place within 6 months. So before you uproot your entire life, sell your house up north, say goodbye to your family and your friends, and drop $500,000 or more on your forever home, you want to make sure that you actually want what Lakewood Ranch offers. So here's what I want you to do. Scan these QR code. I'll put a link in the description down below. Book a free, no obligation, 15-minute discovery call. I'm going to tell you the parts that you might fall in love with. I'll tell you the parts that you might absolutely hate. No sales pitch, no sugarcoating, just the truth. This is not another real estate show. No fluff, no hype, just Florida unfiltered. So if you want to hear what the glossy brochures and the builder websites never say, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you in the next video, everyone. Thanks for watching.